Hey everyone, welcome to SI Now. It is Thursday, March 16th, and I'm Maggie Gray. Happy real first day of the NCAA tournament. Settle in for approximately 467 straight hours of college basketball. It begins today. Here to preview the first day of madness with me is the host of the DA Show on CBS Sports Radio. Damon Amendolara is here, and appreciate you coming by.
Maggie, my pleasure. Anytime you need me.
Oh, yeah. We just put up the Damon signal, and you just come running, cape and all.
Just like the bat signal.
Did you know that the amount of vasectomies that men get goes up by more than 50% this time of year?
Didn't expect you to lead with that, but I actually had heard that, and this is such a great idea. We here in the States are always a little insecure about where we rank internationally from an intellectual scale. And this just goes to show you that
to the top.
We deserve much more credit than we're given credit for, because that just means that a bunch of dudes get to hang out for 4 days, watch basketball with their feet up
and
the ice pack
Okay,
on.
so let's do the wide camera. Hey, everyone out there recuperating. We just want to say we hope you get well soon.
Brilliant moves by you guys. Brilliant.
Okay, let's talk a little bit attorney. Coaches. This is something that really gets a lot of play during this time of year. College basketball coaches really come to symbolize the program. Who's a coach, DA, that you think is really feeling a lot of pressure heading into March Madness?
They won't admit it, but there's actually two, and they're on a collision course. And that is Arizona's Sean Miller, and that is Gonzaga's Mark Few. I mean, Mark Few has had some great teams over the course of his tenure at Gonzaga, and obviously you have to give him some major credit for pushing that program to the heights that it's gone to.
Sure.
But now they're a 1 seed, and there is no real excuses to not get to a Final Four, because they've got all the pieces, and everybody that has been around that program will tell you this is the best team he's ever had, and they've never been to a Final Four. If they don't get there this year, you're really going to throw up your hands and say, well, maybe this is Mark Few's, his limitations. But he's on a collision course with Sean Miller at Arizona. They're the 1, Gonzaga. Sean Miller's the 2 in the same region. And Sean Miller's got the title, and I don't know if it's a great title. It's kind of one of those backhanded compliments. Best coach never to go to a Final Four. Arizona's got all the pieces to win a national championship. So they will likely meet in the Elite Eight, and one of them is going home. But I think both those coaches have pressure because they have great teams this year.
I'm going to go with Matt Painter. I feel like Purdue, you know, the Big Ten, a little bit down this year, but obviously they are fantastic. They've lost the last 2 years in the first round of the tournament, and the 2 years before that, they didn't even make the tournament.
Yeah.
So Matt Painter with a potential Player of the Year candidate, Caleb Swanigan. I mean, we're really looking for big things, and they've had some early exits. Also, I mean, does Chris Collins get in? Perhaps. I mean, Northwestern, this fantastic story, but if they lose, where does that story go? Let's talk about teams. Would you rather have a freshman phenom or senior-laden team?
I think the easy answer is the senior-laden team. I don't think you have to have guys that have played in the NCAA tournament before or gone deep into the tournament before, but I do think you have to have guys that have been in pressure situations before. While the NCAA tournament in the first couple of rounds might not feel like the Final Four, there are always going to be crunch time moments. There's always going to be those heart-racing, pulsing moments. And you've got to have guys that are cool in that moment. And whether that means offensively, moving the ball around to that one clear shot, having a guy that's going to take it to the hole, defensively, having the one guy that's going to take the charge, been there before. I just think you need that experience. And last year was a really good example of it for Villanova. They had not been to the national championship game, but they had so many guys that had played together for so long. Then contrast that with a team like Cal, which had 2 top-end talents in Jaylen Brown and Ivan Rabb. Those guys didn't get out of the first weekend.
You know, it's interesting, when Jay Wright was on his book tour, he came in and he talked about having seniors. I said, wow, what a luxury. You have all these seniors and juniors, upperclassmen every year. Of course, Chris Jenkins is back in the tournament this year in a #1 seed. I said, would you like the one and dones? And he said, yeah, we'd like them. We just can't get them. So we're going to have to stay with guys who really buy into the program for all 4 years. You're a little bit of a stats guy, a little bit of a
stat head, yeah.
And we all are at this point, right? Advanced stats. There's a lot of ways that you can predict or try to predict how good these teams are going to be in a tournament situation. Is there an advanced stat that you find is especially helpful when you're filling out your bracket? I mean, we have, you know, rebounding percentages and things like that. What do you like?
I mean, when you look at both offensive and defensive percentage, I think that's important because it shows you their efficiencies on both sides of the basketball. But I think it's overstated to be able to drill too deep into these and figure that this is where you're going to find these advantages or this kind of slight hand up. I do think in today's college basketball, it's much better because they've loosened up the rules to where offensive efficiency is really a key, much more than it used to be defense, defense, defense. You know, you always heard the old adage, defense wins championships, and it happens in college basketball, in the NBA, and the NFL, and all of this. But right now, we have a game where offensive efficiency is being rewarded. So I think when you look at your brackets and you're picking your brackets and making your picks, you do have to look at teams that are pretty decent offensively, because if they do get caught in some type of slug fight or rock fight and it's a slugfest late in the game, you've got to have a team that is able to create a shot, create a solid offensive possession, and not just going to throw it out of bounds or hoist one up from three-point without looking at the basket.
You mentioned before about Americans and our intellect. When we're filling out these brackets, I feel like everyone looks to their one big upset that they really get behind. And they feel like if they nail this one, it proves that they are the smartest people alive. Right? Mine, I like Eastern Tennessee State against Florida. This is my 13-4.
Love it.
I feel like if I nail this, I'm dropping the mic. I'm just walking out of the office. Someone else is going to have to host the show tomorrow. What about you?
I think there's two 5-12s that I really like in terms of an upset. Number one, I really like UNC Wilmington over Virginia.
Is that right?
And UNC Wilmington was the team last year that many fans might remember pushed Duke in the first round well into the second half and nearly got the upset in that game. Well, UNC Wilmington brings back a core of those guys. Their head coach, Kevin Keatts, is excellent. He's probably going to get a better head coaching job this offseason. And they've got a 5-12 matchup against Virginia. We were just talking about offensive efficiency. Virginia's been terrible offensively this year. They're always that pack line defense. And this year, I really don't trust them in that situation. So I'll tell you, that's one of the 5-12s that I really, really like. Also, in terms of a 5-12, watch out for Middle Tennessee, because last year Middle Tennessee pulled off the upset against Michigan State, and this year they get Minnesota. We were just talking about how down the Big Ten is. Hard to trust Minnesota, middle of the pack team, kind of in the Big Ten in the middle of the pack conference. So that could be two 5-12s that I like.
All right, we're keeping an eye out for that. Now I want to do a little something with you called Is the Hot Take the Smart Take? Any listeners to the DA show know, basically you take hot takes, you kind of debunk the myths a little bit. So we thought this would be right in your wheelhouse. So the hot take, and this one comes from our showrunner, Ben, that 3 Pac-12 teams will make it to the Final Four. Is the hot take also the smart take, DA?
It's not, unfortunately, for your showrunner, because I think there are 2 teams that will get to the Final Four, but not 3. 3 is a little bit too much. I like Oregon coming out of their region, and only because I don't love the 1 seed and I don't love the 2 seed in that region. And so I could see Oregon making it all the way to the Final Four. I also think that Arizona does knock off Gonzaga in the West and then goes on to the Final Four. But I'm guessing that he's also saying UCLA will get all the way there. UCLA has one giant flaw, and that is they only play defense when they want to play defense. That will not work in the NCAA tournament. Also, UCLA is in the toughest region, in my estimation. They're going to have to go through both Kentucky and go through UNC to get there. They're not beating both of those teams. I don't think they beat either one of those teams. So give me 2 out of the 3 to get to the Final Four.
Okay, speaking of UCLA, of course, it's not about Lonzo Ball right now. It's all about Pop's LeVar Ball has become the biggest story. Is the hot take the smart take? The hot take is that LeVar Ball is ruining his child's life, his career. He's brought an end to basketball. He's basically the worst thing that could ever happen to, organized athletics. Is that hot take the smart take?
Most importantly, he's ruining our lives, because we have to keep talking about LeVar Ball. I don't think that he's ruining his son's life, but he's making his son's life harder. I mean, because we all have parents that say stupid things at like Christmas or Thanksgiving or something. We're like, oh, Dad, just shut up. Don't say that. Well, think about having your dad say that, not at Christmas, but instead on a national platform and doing it every single day. I mean, you just want your dad to go away and crawl into a hole. How often can you defend him saying, well, he had a little bit too much wine today? So it's just so annoying, because everything that he says, you're going, I don't even know if you believe that. I think LeVar Ball has been intoxicated by the celebrity, knowing that everything he says becomes a national story, and so he just can't help himself.
Okay, so the hot take's actually like a medium take.
Yeah, it's lukewarm take.
Lukewarm take. Okay, let's turn to the NBA. Haven't talked about that yet. The hot take is that Russell Westbrook is now 4th in MVP voting behind James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and LeBron James. That's the hot take, but is that the smart take?
Only if you are deciding this based on the win percentages or the wins of this team. because of your teams, because those other three that you mentioned are much higher in the standings than Russell Westbrook and the Oklahoma City Thunder are. If you took LeBron off the Cavs, they wouldn't be very good, but they wouldn't be as bad as the Thunder without Russell Westbrook. If you took James Harden off of the Rockets, same thing. If you took Kawhi Leonard off of the Spurs, you could argue the Spurs are still a really good team. Even though I love Kawhi Leonard, Greg Popovich and that system sometimes runs itself. If you took Westbrook off of the Thunder, what are they, a 20-win team? They might be the Brooklyn Nets. They would be that bad. So I think if you wanted to say who is the most important player to their team, it almost always is LeBron number one. In this case, I would not say it's Russell Westbrook 4.
Okay. DA, you can listen to him on CBS Sports Radio Monday through Friday, 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm a big fan. You know it. Love having you, DA. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Maggie. The feeling's mutual.
Go watch the tournament now. Your fancy watch party. Your fancy watch party over at CBS.
I'm going to be
enjoy the caviar.
Legs up with the ice pack because I'm going to get my vasectomy coming up in a few minutes.
Oh, man. Women everywhere shedding tears over that one. DA, appreciate that. Of course, when it comes to picking winners, who are you going to trust? The so-called experts, hacks like DA and myself? Absolutely not. You want pint-sized basketball fans who our own Andrew Perloff caught up with earlier this week.
If you hit a big basket to win the game, how would you react right afterwards?
You would be so happy.
Well, let me see it. Not a lot of humility in this room.
I think I can celebrate a little more.
I'm going to show you a famous coach, and you have to do your best impersonation of his face. Okay, this is Tom Izzo. Let's see your Tom Izzo faces. Pretty good. Pretty good. This is Bob Huggins. He looks mad. You don't like the call. This is your Bob Huggins face. This is Coach K for Duke, and he's really upset. Wow, that is angry. SMU has great guard play. You seem like you appreciate good guard play.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, let's take SMU. Who do you think wins a matchup between a tiger and a leprechaun?
Let's think hard, Morgan. Leprechaun.
Leprechaun?
Because leprechauns are so tiny that the leprechaun can just go away and then the tiger would miss. A leprechaun is not playing a tiger in the playoffs. It's really a team and their mascot's a tiger, and one team, the mascot is a leprechaun.
Who do you think will win? We got a razorback, which is a hog or a pig, against a pirate. Arr.
A pirate. I think the pirate may win because maybe in the fight, maybe he's gonna have a sword.
Yeah, that's a good point. Who do you guys think wins a matchup of a cowboy and a wolverine?
A wolverine for sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of obvious. What teeth are those? Like, you can see the teeth, and then the man is just like, and then he's like.
So you guys don't think Oklahoma State's gonna do very well, do you?
No.
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 All right, you go first. You have to hold this. This is gonna be the ball, and this is gonna be the rim. Let's see what you got. Slam dunk, nice. Give me some panache, something special. Oh, wow. You almost went Daryl Dawkins and broke the backboard there. I didn't do anything. I did not. If a ref made a bad call in the game, the official, the guy who blows a whistle, what would you say?
I would say that was a bad call.
Yeah, that's really, it's a clear message you're sending.
I would say you literally messed up the whole entire game. But actually, you would get a technical foul.
South Carolina Marquette. Ooh, tough one. What do you think? South Carolina? You want to go Marquette. I like it. Take it under upset. All right. You won yesterday? In what?
In basketball.
In the NIT?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Me too.
You too?
You were not there. I did not see you.
He must have been in another region.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like we got Kansas and Florida Gulf Coast.
They're actually lying.
A few more things to fill out on this side, but we're looking good. All right, who's going to win the NCAA tournament this year?
I would say Villanova.
Good. Anybody like Kentucky?
Kentucky.
Anybody like Arizona?
Oh, Arizona.
All right. Does anyone think Jacksonville State's going to win the whole thing?
Yeah.
No. Good.
Yeah, they're terrible.
kids were absolutely adorable. Well, Saturday night at Madison Square Garden, Gennady Golovkin puts his middleweight titles, along with his undefeated record, on the line against Daniel Jacobs. Here to preview the fight, one of the most recognizable voices in the sport of boxing, the Hall of Famer, Michael Buffer, is here, and K2 promoter Tom Loeffler. He is Golovkin's promoter, along with the Klitschkos, many other famous fighters. Appreciate you guys being here. Listen, Michael, we know how the fighters are preparing. They're in camp. How are you preparing? How do you prepare your voice for these moments?
I actually found this one tea bag that is like throat comforting, tea bag, and I carry those with me, and tea and honey is always good. But there are those bad moments before the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. I woke up that morning, had no voice, zero.
Well, you powered through.
And it was one of these occasions where Jimmy Lennon and I were sharing ring duties because of the two competing networks type of thing. And I called Jimmy and I said, "You better be ready to do them all." And my wife kept getting chicken soup, and we, I managed to do my part.
I happened to be at that Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. I mean, is that just your worst nightmare, that we were waiting so long? You wake up and you have no voice. You have to think this is like the universe punishing you for something.
It's my worst nightmare. My second worst one is a recurring dream that I have, that I can't get to ringside or find my notes. I have this crazy dream. Other than that, losing the voice, that's the worst thing.
Okay, well, we hope that those nightmares never come true. We should talk about Triple G. For people who don't know Gennady Golovkin, he is one of the best middleweights, well, definitely in boxing right now. But, Tom, he has the chance to be one of the best ever. I mean, this is a division that historically has seen some of the greatest fighters: Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard. I mean, just to name a couple, Marvin Hagler, more. What does Triple G have to do to get in that company?
He's on his way. He's considered the biggest puncher in the sport of boxing. 23 knockouts in a row. It's a tremendous matchup with Danny Jacobs now if he's successful against Danny. A lot of people are talking about a future Canelo fight, but he's definitely on his way. It's going to be a great night on Saturday night at Madison Square Garden. And as long as he keeps winning, as long as he keeps knocking guys out, he'll join that company, I'm sure.
I'm really glad you brought up Canelo Alvarez, because it kept me from having to bring up Canelo Alvarez. We had Oscar De La Hoya and Alvarez sitting right here in our studio not too long ago. I asked him about a potential Triple G fight, and here's what he had to say.
The fight has already been, it's there. It's only going to take for Golovkin to accept the deal that we have on the table, which is the most lucrative deal he has ever had. But like Canelo said, the offer's there, the fight's there. Look, it's not on us, it's not on him, it's on Golovkin.
Okay, Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy saying it's on you. What's your response?
Well, we don't like to negotiate in the media, but Gennady, when the WBC ordered the fight last year, he was ready, willing and able. He was in the ring with Canelo, and he wanted the fight back then. But I've been in regular contact with Eric Gomez, a Golden Boy, and if there's a way to make the fight, we'll find a way to make it happen. Gennady's got to win Saturday. Canelo's got a big fight May 6th against Chavez. So unless they both win, then there's really nothing to talk about.
How far away are we here? I mean, boxing fans want to know. Is this, I mean, in terms of the money, is it about the venue? Is it about, what is it about? How far are we away?
It's the venue. We would let Golden Boy decide all of that. That's not an issue. Making fights with Gennady is pretty easy. He had a quote. He's like, "Just call me. It's not so complicated." So
Mayweather say, or excuse me, De La Hoya is saying it is complicated. He's saying he's got the offer out there, and you guys aren't accepting it.
Well, we made a counter offer. So the thing is that there's so much money in that fight. That's one of those fights that has to happen. The fans are demanding it. The media is demanding it. Oscar said it'll happen September 2017. As of now, there's no reason for me to believe that it wouldn't happen in September if both guys win.
Michael, you've been around the sport a long time. How damaging would it be if this fight never happens between Triple G and Alvarez?
It's a fight that has to happen. There's no doubt about that. I think eventually Tom makes a great point. He doesn't want to negotiate in the press or in the media. And, I'm kind of like behind the scenes. I see a lot of things. And it is challenging right now for K2 to, get this done. I don't think Oscar and Canelo are too excited about making the deal because they're making a lot of money with other fights, and other reasons. But I want to say one thing about the middleweight division.
Sure.
The heavyweights are like, everybody loves heavyweights, but the great thing about the middleweight division is it's kind of like your average guy, or like the average 190-pound guy says, you know, if I weighed 160 like I did when I was in my 20s, I could be, you know, I would look like that. It's just, there's an association with the fighters at that level, and it just becomes a real legendary glamour division.
Yeah, listen, it's given us some of our greatest fights and greatest fighters in boxing history. Yeah. Man, I just like, I feel like fight fans should leave this interview feeling confident that this Alvarez Triple G thing is going to happen. You know, I feel like their fears should be put to bed. Can we do that here or no?
Well, Maggie, like I said, if there's a way to make it happen from our side, we'll definitely make it happen. If Gennady wins on Saturday, look, you know, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. There's nobody on the Triple G side is overlooking Danny Jacobs. He's clearly Gennady's most dangerous opponent. He's bigger. He's got fast hands. He's got his own 90% knockout ratio, and he's from Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York. So you know, nobody's overlooking Danny. If Gennady is successful, if Canelo's successful, I personally don't think there'll be a problem making the Canelo fight.
It's funny because we talked to Triple G yesterday. We're going to air that interview tomorrow. He said he's not even interested in the fight with Alvarez anymore. He's over it.
Well,
believe your fighter.
Step by step.
Yeah, step by step.
It's the biggest, again, it would be the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. I mean, Oscar made a great point. It would be the biggest payday for Gennady. But at the same time, Canelo would earn more than he made against Mayweather. So it'd be his biggest payday, too. So, again, from the financial side, there's really no reason why the fight shouldn't happen.
Turning back to this Saturday's fight, Michael, how big of an upset would it be if Danny Jacobs is able to stop Gennady? I can't ask the promoter for Golovkin how that would be. How big of an upset would that be?
Everything you've just been discussing with Tom, it would just be thrown under the bus. Yep. You know, it would be a monster upset. But he's such a great opponent that it wouldn't be shocking. Surprising maybe, but not shocking, because Danny Jacobs is one hell of a fighter.
There's a no rematch clause in this fight. Why?
Well, it's a mandatory. He's a WBA middleweight champion. It's a mandatory ordered by the WBA, so there's no rematch clause. That's why I said at the opening press conference, this is for all the marbles. You know, if Danny Jacobs wins on Saturday night, all of a sudden he's not only at the top of the middleweight division, he's at the top of the sport of boxing.
Just want to move away from boxing just for a moment. Well, it is boxing. I don't know what we're calling it. This potential showdown between Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor of the UFC. Now, Dana White happened to be on Conan O'Brien Wednesday. He was asked if he thinks the fight will happen. Here is what the president of the UFC had to say.
I do. I do think it's going to. I think it's going to be a tough deal. There's obviously a lot of egos involved in this deal, and a lot of people. So that always makes it tougher. But on the flip side, there's so much money involved. I just don't see how it doesn't happen.
All right, Tom, he's a promoter, you're a promoter. Just looking at this from the outside view, what would be the biggest obstacle in getting a fight like this made? Say you wanted to try to get a fight between a boxer and a mixed martial artist. What would you be dealing with?
Well, Dana made the same point I made with the Canelo fight. It's there's so much money on the table there that, you know, financially it should happen. You know, we have a lot of respect for Conor McGregor, what he's accomplished in the UFC. I think clearly if that fight happened in the octagon, Conor McGregor would win. If a fight happens in the boxing ring, most people think Floyd would win. So, you know, that's a big challenge. Not only two boxers fight each other. Now you're dealing with the UFC. They have their own exclusivity. They have their own contracts. So it definitely needs to be something that Dana, you know, gives a stamp of approval for. But I think it's a matchup. I know Michael's not going to be excited by it.
You would not be excited? This would put you and your brother Bruce Buffer.
Well, that'd be great if that happened.
Well, would you guys like do a co-introduction? I mean, that would be one of the great thrills of your life, right?
That part would be great. I just don't think it'll happen. Really? I just don't see it happening.
Why not?
And if it does happen and it's boxing, it's a really one-sided thing. You know, there's no doubt about that. Financially, it's big and huge, and it's a monster and all that. But just my opinion, I just don't see it.
Yeah, you're getting a gut feeling about this. I mean, you've seen some of the fights that we never thought we'd see. For a while, we never thought Mayweather and Pacquiao would happen, but it did. I would trust your instinct here. Mm-hmm. Why don't you think it's going to happen?
I've seen a video of Conor sparring with like real boxers. And it doesn't look like he would be in the same class with a 40-year-old Mayweather. Yeah,
pound for pound, one of the greatest fighters of all time. Michael Buffer, always great to see you, the Hall of Famer. Tom Loeffler, Good luck to your fighter this weekend. Gennady Golovkin, one of our favorites to watch. Like I said, power, precision, everything. Of course, HBO Championship Boxing returns Saturday night. It's on pay-per-view. Triple G and Danny Jacobs is the main event. Of course, you can watch my interview with both fighters on tomorrow's episode of SI Now. Of course, that comes your way tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. But until then, enjoy March Madness, everyone. We will see you back here on Friday.
James drove into the wilderness when a hungry wolf pack surrounded him. To survive, he had to become one of them, expand their territory, and nurse the young. How far will you take the all-new RAV4 Hybrid? Toyota, let's go places.